as a journalist, I love words, right? And I think that we're also in a society standard right now where when we're having the intense arguments with each other and disagreeing, it's because we have different definitions of words. I think that from now on, when we have these discussions, you almost have to define the word before you can have the discussion. But that's what I want to do. I want to encourage discourse, discussion, definitely not censorship and shutting ideas down.
Here's a great report I think you ought to do once you start your show. Look at this. This is a screenshot from before April 2020 and the whole COVID global government takeover. Here's after April 2020. This is officially from Webster Dictionary Online with the whole audio player, everything. Now they're just playing word games, and that's important.
It is important, and I think that there's many other examples of that. And I think when they change the definition of words, it's also to handicap us from having the argument like, wait, no, that's not what it means anymore. You know, so then we can't have a true, honest argument because we have two different definitions of words.
Welcome. This is Rachel-Dara-Prince, and I'm here with Gordon-Michael Schiller, and it's a pleasure to have you back. Gordon, welcome, Postmaster.
Thank you, Rachel. Pleasure to be here.
It's so good to have you because you bring some sanity to the world, at least in my world, and I'm sure for some others out there too. And this is, just really been eating away at me to see all of the confusion and the word games out there right now, and the confusion that the media is creating, and the woke, and just the division that's happening just because nobody can agree, or nobody can seem to agree on the definition of things. And I am just astounded at how these people are going around scratching their heads trying to figure out what's going on with the critical race theory and teaching children one version of the truth, and then people disagreeing with that, and the parents getting upset at what they're teaching the children, and nobody can agree on what is okay for their children. Nobody can agree what is okay if somebody wants to come out as transgendered. Nobody's arguing with it. There's no support for how people are defined as their gender. There's no pushback on it. Everybody's afraid to push back on it and think that children might actually need a little pushback in order to help them get clear with some of the holistic roots of their problems. Instead, we're just so topical right now with all of the issues and the censorship with how we look at the world. It's and how we look at each other instead of creating or giving people the space not only to get to the root of their own issues, but to actually have their own thinking opinions. And we'll get into that later when we talk about the claim of the life and the slave colony that has been created for us here on this planet. And so many people aren't even, in their right minds, and they've been so indoctrinated and brainwashed. But that aside, we're actually, it's all bubbling up to the surface now. People can't even have their own emotion or opinion because I guess maybe they're just not authorized to think. That's what Chief would say.
They're not authorized to think, and they don't.
Is that why we're having this word games right now? Do you think that's really what's happening?
Well, because it is about words, it is about grammar, and that's what people don't comprehend, because nobody knows how a fact is conveyed. They don't know what a fact is, because if you don't know how a fact is conveyed, then you can't claim that you know any facts. How could you? A fact could slap you in the face and you wouldn't know what it is, because you didn't even know how. You can't tell me how a fact is conveyed. And all you people that are listening, you got to be honest with yourself. Don't try to cheat anybody else. Go back inside and ask yourself, how is a fact conveyed? Answer that question, and you can't do it. Nobody can, because you haven't. That's been kept from us, and that's why we have all these arguments. I mean, the first thing that we need to get at, and it's got nothing to do with truth. Truth is an opinion. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. What we're talking about is facts. What are the facts? And in order to find out what the facts are, you need to know how a fact is conveyed. And when I'm speaking with people on the streets every day, they can't answer this question, and I say, well, I'll give you one for free. 3 + 3 = 6. You want to argue about that? Well, no. Well, why don't you argue? You don't want to argue about that because it's a fact. Well, now, how do you do that with grammar? How do you convey a fact? And nobody has a clue how that's done. You see, and they don't spend any time with language. I mean, look at I've talked to people with my students, different learners from different countries all over the world, and they all confirm one thing, that everyone was taught. India, Ukraine, Russia, every country that I've talked to people, they all confirm that they were taught in school. For one day, one time they taught them, you have to have a prepositional phrase in order to have a noun. But they never spent any time on that. And they told them, don't start a sentence with a prepositional phrase, don't end a sentence with a prepositional phrase. Well, if you don't end a sentence with a prepositional phrase, you wind up with a dangling participle verb, which is, what is that going to do? None of it makes any sense. And the other thing that people don't comprehend is that words do not get their meaning from the word itself. The word gets its meaning by the way that it is conveyed. As I said earlier, he wound the bandage around the wound. Now that's adverb verb. Wound is conveyed there at the end as a verb, but the point is that the word did not get its meaning by the word itself. Same word, two different meanings. It's the way the word is conveyed. Speaking, you don't have to worry about it, because the spoken word can't be qualified anyway. Taking noises come out of someone's mouth and converting that into a fact, unless I were to say, if and you were to taking notes and write this down, for the claim of the claim is with the claim by the claim. Well, that's correct syntax. And if you write that out, well, then you would convey a fact. And that would be the only way that you could qualify the spoken word. And it's still your perception of what you heard. It's not what you, you can't qualify the spoken word. It just there's nothing there. It's just noises.
Gordon, we're here with Gordon, Gordon-Michael Schiller, a federal postmaster, and he is one of the authorized teachers with the chief, or also known as Russell-J. Gould. Now, on this Word Games podcast, we're going to explore some of the things, the mouthful of things that Gordon was just talking about. What are the facts? How is a fact conveyed, and why is that important? Why, when we hear the media speaking, really, are these just, mistruths, or are they just, just verbal spoutings from people's minds that really mean nothing? I mean, do they have truth or don't they? What is truth? And so we're going to explore some of these things. We're also going to talk about basically setting us straight from these word games and the confusions of the facts. And we're going to explore that with Gordon today, and talking about what is syntax, how syntax can help, and how quantum grammar can help, and what Russell-J. Gould has done with the grammar, and to bring that quantum grammar in and show how facts are actually conveyed. And then we're going to go into a little bit more about how, and the importance of syntaxing documents in the fiction, what the fiction is versus a fact, and really just talking about this grammar war, and how we're just coming up with all these specific definitions of things, and so nobody can agree on anything. And I think that was, Gordon, that was the whole point of what Chief was trying to do, or is doing with the grammar, is to bring the quantum grammar into contract law, so that there's no misinterpretation of the facts, so that things can't be misconstrued in the past. They can't be misconstrued or thought of to be, agreed upon in a different way in the future. It has to mean what it meant or would mean it now, and that means that things need to be conveyed in a way that's agreed upon by both parties contracting.
Yeah, before you can come to any concord, your first thing you have to have is communication. In order to have that communication, you need a common ground. So, and so that means the method of the conveyance of the facts, that gets into syntax. And you asked first, you said, well, what is syntax? Well, syntax, I'm using syntax right now. Take those words and mix them all up, and then read it and see what it says. Doesn't say that, even though what I'm speaking can't be qualified, it's a syntax in an order that you can comprehend. We can communicate this way, But we cannot communicate facts this way. If it comes to contracts must be in writing so that they can be qualified. Because, like Dave did an exercise all the time, does 2 + 2 = 4? And everybody says, well, yeah, it does. Okay, well, so you're telling me then that TU plus TOO equals PHOR? And you can do that a dozen different ways. Every word has over 900 different meanings. So you got to get to the fact somehow. I mean, TOO plus TWO equals FOUR, or am I saying TOO plus TO equals FORE? I mean, there's dozens of different ways of doing that. There's no way of qualifying that coming out of my mouth. It has to be on paper, and then on paper you can qualify it, you can certify what things say and what things mean. And this syntax, every sentence, even the words I'm speaking, is in a certain syntax. It's not a correct syntax, but it is a syntax. Now, what we do, what we call syntaxing, is we take and we look at a sentence and we can identify what part of speech each word in that sentence is. And by doing that, you prove whether there is nouns or whether there is not nouns. And proving that there is no nouns proves that there is no facts, which proves that it's false and misleading statements. Like here, the province of Alberta. What part of speech are those words? Well, if you break that down, that's the is an adverb modifying the verb province. Of is another adverb modifying the verb Alberta. Well, how could you have a verb Alberta? Can someone show me a verb Alberta? What is that? Am I going to Alberta my supper tonight, or my car at the car wash? What does that mean? See, and correct. They taught you in school. They taught us in every country, in any country in the world. You have to have that positional phrase. So the is not a phrase, and of is not a phrase. So correct would be for the province of the Alberta. Yes, it sounds strange, and that's just due to your brainwashing. But you don't, like I said, no one's telling you to speak this way, but that's the way you got to write a contract in order to convey position is for. The would be allodial, or you can look up the word allodial. We don't use that because ALL means no. So position, allodial, fact, or what you would call in the public, what you would be trained of in school would be preposition, article, noun, which, of course, we don't use any of those words. They're all no contract words for different reasons. We'll get into that later. But anyway, position, allodial, fact, phrases. And so if you just take the word cat and you put cat on a piece of paper, well, that's a cat standing alone is a pronoun. Any word that stands alone is a pronoun. And a pronoun is a simulation of a fact. It points to a fact. There's a cat out there someplace, a kitty cat, a pussy cat, a bulldozer, or whatever. We don't know. We can't get to that from just having a word on the page that says cat. Well, then you go the cat. Well, as soon as you separate of the, for the, with the, whatever as soon as you separate that positional phrase, the becomes an adverb. And adverbs are modifiers. That's what they do. They modify the word ahead of them and they modify the word after them. So now you've taken the pronoun cat and you've modified it to a verb, the cat. Now you got a verb cat. What's a verb cat? We don't know what a pronoun cat is. We don't know what a verb cat is. So now you go for the cat. Well, now you got position, allodial, fact. Now you positioned your fact as a fact. You see, we still can't get to the meaning. You can't just do that because you have to have a sentence that is a minimum of 13 words so you can get to the meaning, because otherwise we don't know what's going on. So we go for the cat. Well, now we need another phrase. Before we can have another noun or another fact, we need another phrase, a positional phrase. So we go for the cat at the farm. See, now you got two phrases there. And you've got your cat and farm are both positioned as facts. Okay. Now after your second phrase, you've got two phrases there after the second phrase, and the verb always comes after the second phrase. You have to have a verb in there for the thinking. What's the cat doing? What's going on with the cat? Now we use only two verbs, is for singular and are for plural. I said cat, so then I would use is. But if I said cats with an S, cats plural, well, then I would use are. For the cat at the farm is. But now before I can have another noun, I need another positional phrase. So I'm going to go with the. So for the cat at the farm is with the catching. See, now there people say, well, catching is a verb. No, it's not. That's a condition of your thinking, not the condition of the word, the way the word is conveyed. The word is conveyed as a fact, or what you would call a noun. No, 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 or no, no. So, okay, so now you got for the cat at the farm is with the catching. Now you need another positional phrase. You can't have another fact till you have another phrase to set it. Of the mice, you see? So now, and then we got to have a with the, again, it goes of the with, you have to have cause and effect. And that's page 40 that we give to all the students. It explains that stuff. Causality and then the effect. What's the assignment? Okay, for the cat at the farm is with the catching of the mice. With the skill, by the last phrase is always a by the to give you your authority, by the cat's hyphen nature to make a compound fact out of that. You can't take that hyphen out of there or you turn the whole sentence into adverb verb. But now you have a sentence, and the interesting thing is what people don't comprehend is you can take that sentence written in correct grammar and you can convert that to any language on the planet without gaining a word, without losing a word, and without changing the meaning. So it's because it's mathematical syntax. I mean, 3 + 3 = 6. You can't argue that. Nobody will argue that because you can't argue a fact. Well, now you conveyed all your facts as facts. For the cat at the farm, see, cat is conveyed as a fact, as what you would call a noun, what people out there in the world would call a noun. But the thing is everything that's written in the public, all laws, codes, rules, regulations, which really don't exist anymore since the end of the bankruptcy, all your newspapers, all your novels, all your favorite books and stuff like that are all written in adverb verb, or what we call adverb verb. If you start syntaxing it, like I did with the province of Alberta, it all breaks down into gibberish that has no meaning. Alberta doesn't have a meaning as a verb. Province doesn't have a meaning as a verb. See, how can you come to concord? How can I cooperate with Alberta as a verb? I have no comprehension of what that could even mean or be. It has to be conveyed correctly in a contract so that we can get to the facts, so that I can cooperate with the facts. I'll be happy to cooperate if you show me a fact. They can't do that.
So, do you want to talk? Do you want to talk a little bit also after you comment? But do you want to talk a little bit about how what Chief did, just to kind of refresh people's memory now that it's a little bit more clear on the quantum grammar and how he kind of sprinkled that onto the world?
Well, first of all, I'd say facts and method. And there's a method, like what I outlined earlier was the correct syntax, how to do a 567, 567, 2, 567, 567, and that is 5 is position, 6 is lodial, and 7 is fact. How to do that? That's how to write something in quantum grammar. But the other key, and the key to this whole thing, is there's another whole side of this, as I said earlier, is to identify what they write, because all these things, as you mentioned, they wrote this contract, it was one-sided to their advantage. Well, see, it didn't say anything, but you just didn't know that, okay, at the time. And so what this technology does is it gives you the capacity to vacate their garbage, to prove it as what it is, by proving that there is no fact, by proving that it is false, misleading statements. And as soon as you prove that it's false, misleading statements, how can they hold it up as a contract? Well, see, we have this contract here. Well, see, I have it here as evidence of your perjury and your crime and your false, misleading statements. So what do you say to that? When are you going to stop and correct your grammar? And they can't do that because they never had a claim in the first place, because I got news for everybody out there. We're all equal. We're all equal. That's what the rule 1 is now time or now space, and rule 2 is equal, or we're same, rule same. Okay, we're all the same. No one has any more authority than me or anybody else. But the thing is, when you take their paperwork, like I had, for instance, I had a lady, and the difference that this makes in lives is just, I had a young lady that she got into a bad crowd when she was young, 16 years old. She had a baby and got into drugs and wound up getting pregnant and having a baby. Wound up as a single mother on social assistance with a baby. Well, so now social services is making her life hell. They made her life hell for years. I met her when she was about 35, and they were still giving her grief. And the woman comes to the door. I saw her one day, and she's crying, and she said, "Well, social services was here again. They just march in, they do what they want, they tell me, and they always threaten to take my kids away." She left me this piece of paper. So I sat down with a pen with that piece of paper, and I marked it as evidence, full colon evidence. That first colon equals for the. And so I write full colon space evidence, and then I started syntaxing the document. I went over it, and we have a key code where a 0 is a conjunction, a 1 is an adverb, a 2 is a verb, a 3 is an adjective, and a 4 is a pronoun. So now I can sit there and I can write those numbers on those words, identifying those words as to what they are. And Russell has this established as by global postal treaty. They know what those numbers are and what those mean. So I take and I write on there, "Dear Sir," okay, 3-4, adjective pronoun, okay, and then I start going through the sentence. You are, you indent, void, I break, because they break continuance everywhere. There's no continuance of the evidence between anything they say on any paper that they write. That's why they space it and indent it the way that they do. So there's no continuance of the evidence. So there's one part has nothing to do with the next part. So you can syntax that, you can show that. And then you syntax the words. And I syntaxed that letter. I gave it to her and I said, "Make a photocopy of this. When she shows up, keep this for your records. Give her a copy of it. When she shows up now, because she said she was coming back the next day, give her this and say, all right, I don't want to hear from you. I want to see your credentials. I want your credentials. I want a copy of your credentials. And I want your questions. You put all your questions in writing and sign them in blue ink. I'm not going to stand here and babble with you anymore because the spoken word doesn't mean anything. I want your questions in writing." Well, that social worker did an about face and ran. And so the next day, there was a piece of paper shoved in her screen door, not in her mailbox, not in the door, not by phone or like that. They put a piece of paper in the door. "Your file is closed." And they weren't bothering her no more.
Well, she lucked out, Gordon, with you helping her with that. Obviously, it's not always that easy. Sometimes it is. But I will say that with somebody with no knowledge coming in without a claim of the life, they're very limited. If one has a claim of the life and they begin syntaxing, let's just be clear here. And this is something I wanted to get to, because you said we're all equal. And the reality is, no. We have been slaves. We have been slaves under the birth certificate system. We have not been equal. They have not treated us equal, and that's the problem.
Well,
But the reality is, yes, on an esoteric spiritual level, yeah, we all have red blood. We all are equal.
But not that equal under the law. Watch the movie Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis and the speech that they do in the House there about equality, and that's what they talk about. We're all equal. He says. Tommy Lee's character says, "I do not claim equality in all things, but that we are all equal under the law," and that's what I'm talking about. And that's what
you're saying, that under the law we're supposed to be equal because we're not.
Well, no, we are, but the thing is you gotta have the knowledge to step up to the plate. If you do not have the knowledge to play in the sandbox, you can't play in the sandbox. You're just food.
That has been right. We're food. Essentially, I think that's ultimately what I'm saying, is that we've been so dumbed down as slaves,
right? But you have
who don't know how to protect or defend ourselves, so that we have been perpetrated victims.
Safeguard, protect, defend. DE means no, so that's no fend. And protect, PRO means no, so that's no tech. So safeguard is the correct word. How to safeguard ourselves. But what I wanted to get across there was that everyone has the capacity. I talk to a lot of people that say, well, there's no way that I can ever recover from this, or I can ever, bad word again, that I can ever get myself straight on this, Dave. The deck is stacked. Well, if you continue playing in that sandbox as a slave without knowledge, yes, then they can harvest you. Absolutely. But they can't stop you from gaining knowledge and stepping forward as a live life claimant with the knowledge and now having the evidence to support your position, and the evidence that their position or that what they wrote, what they put forward is fraud. It's a lie. And everything that they say is a lie. So like I deal with this all the day with people walking, you need to put a mask on. And so I stop it. Oh, thank God you're here. Thank God finally someone's here that has all the facts and knows all the facts. So how's a fact conveyed? I mean, I'm just asking, since you have all the facts and you know all the facts. Well, the look on these people's faces as they turn tail and run away, because they realize, and I say, well, be honest with yourself as they're running away. Be honest with yourself. You don't know any facts. because you can't tell me how a fact is conveyed. And nobody can, well, other than a student of quantum grammar, can tell me, but none of them other people can tell me. They don't know what they're doing. They're listening to all this spoken word garbage and taking it, like I told them, take everything you heard on the news, throw it in a garbage can. Doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
What did you see?
Yep.
Have you ever seen? Well, there's a mask mandate. Oh, really? Where is it? Have you seen it? And I carry it with me. Syntax. You mean this thing right here? I've had people that start up their business again that have this stuff syntaxed behind the counter. The police come in and, well, you know that there's a law. Or really, you mean this law right here? What does that mean as a pronoun? What does that mean as a verb? What does that mean as an adverb? And the police can't answer them because they don't know. They hire them on stupid people on purpose. So,
yeah, I think I really liked what you said, for I concur that, with knowledge, we are powerful and able to help ourselves. And that's why this platform is so crucial, vital to the continuation of sanity in my head, because there's a way to stop the perpetrators.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, I said before, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 12b-6, failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. How can you expect a remedy if you've never even stated a claim? And how can you state a claim if you don't know how to read and write correct? So the first step is, when we get a claim from these clowns, is we syntax, we mark it as evidence. And see, what you have to realize is, when you take their piece of paper, some papers from the IRS, or some people from the fiction courts, from a peace officer or whatever, you take that piece of paper and you syntax it, mark that as evidence. That is the state's evidence, and you are the state's witness. And they teach you this on all these law programs all the time, that the witness is immune. Okay, well, give us a name, give us something, and we'll give you witness protection. Yeah, because he's doing his duty under Title 42, 1986, to stop and correct. Okay, and that's, we all have that duty. The police officer puts on his costume, he doesn't get authority, he gets duty, and his duty is the same as your duty. It's the same as my duty, to stop and correct. You see, if you're sitting at a street light and you see somebody being robbed, raped, or murdered, and you just drive away, to hell with that guy, you can be charged as an accessory. And that's how that's the opening where we have to get them, because the police officer or the government officer agent that wrote that piece of paper, he's got a duty to stop and correct, and he's not doing it, and he's passing it on to his superiors.
Can you go into a little bit here? I don't want to get too in depth, but just talk about the titles, because I feel like you talk about the titles a lot. So does Chief, and they're really important. But kind of, can you explain? I think it's kind of like syntax. It's like, we know there's these elusive titles that just are out there. What are they? What do they mean? And where do they come from? And how are they so important to this cause?
Well, the foundation, okay? I don't know, you got to go break it down a little further than that, because if someone didn't know about quantum and they were going to go out there and write a claim, like I said, you got to state a claim. So if someone is going to go write a claim, well, what is their foundation for that claim? What is the foundational authority? Well, they're going to go looking for authority, and if they're in Canada, they'll use the Canadian laws, codes, rules, regulations, or what they think is valid. And the same thing in the United States, they'd use United States of America codes, rules, regulations. Well, those United States codes, and they would stand on that. But the thing is none of that stuff says anything. It's, first of all, it's all gone, because the United States doesn't exist anymore. It ended on the 2nd of November 1999. Canada ended 17th day or 15th day of April 2017. So those things don't even exist anymore. That's just a fantasy. And even if they did, you take that and you start using that, and the courts, they don't want to take your paperwork unless it's written like what they want it, which is all fraudulent conveyance. It's not conveyed to anything, so you cannot get a solution from that, and you won't get a solution from that. And now you're in there standing on quicksand. You're trying to build your house on quicksand. You're trying to have a foundation of your claim based on something that is all lies. Well, like Russell says, fiction in equals fiction out. Contract in equals contract out. So what Russell has done by creating this venue, he's taken the Universal Postal Union to corrected that as the global postal corporation. He's corrected everything. He's corrected it all. And so now there's a venue. He captured the flag, that's formerly the Title IV flag, the correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar, performance flag. He's corrected that now. So now you have a venue where you can put the flag on your paperwork, because the paperwork is a vessel with its cargo of words. Therefore, it flies a flag to set what people call the jurisdiction, which we call venue-authority. That sets the venue. And then it has a postage stamp on it to pay the fee for the freight. And that's in the Federal Postal Court. The paperwork, people think that the court, well, I got to go to court. They're thinking of it as a building someplace. The court is, the factual court is not a building someplace. Well, it is in a sense that the paperwork is the building. Federal Postal Building. That's what it is. The paperwork is the court, and if it's all written correct, it's correct. Like when I was studying this stuff, I studied for years. I studied contracts. I studied bonds and treaties and trusts. I studied all this stuff, and one thing that was troubling me was bonds, because I couldn't figure out where the bond, where the value was coming in. Well, I was trying to sort it all out with fiction values, and that's why bonds wasn't making sense to me. But when you write a correct sentence structure contract, a document contract, federal postal station, federal court venue, performance, neutrality, that is the court, and all the facts are there, and it's all correct. Everything is shown. All the abbreviations are shown what they mean. All the words are shown what they mean. There is nothing left open for interpretation for some of these other clowns. Well, we think it means this. No, it means what it says, and says what it means, front to back, back to front, right here. Here's the court right there. And you don't have to speak. You don't have to go in and stand. Why would you go into a room someplace and talk to what's a judge? A lawyer wearing a dress, and probably got garter and stockings on underneath too. So why would you go hand it to that guy to make a decision? You're granting authority to some clown who isn't in your favor to make a decision. No, the facts are all in the paperwork, and this is what it says, and this is what it means, and this is what it is. And at the end of the day, that is the judgment. It is the court. It is the treaty. It is the trust. It's everything. It's everything all rolled into one, and it is the bond, because it's saying, every paragraph says, for this claimant's knowledge, for this claimant's knowledge. Well, okay, you're putting this forward. You're saying it's correct, and so you're saying that if I'm lying, I'm dying. It's kind of like what people think of as an affidavit. Affidavit, no affidavit. AFF means no. It's a silly word, but that's kind of what people think of as that. You're making an oath that this is true and correct under penalty of the perjury. And that's what your contract is. It's under the penalty of the perjury. So it is the bond, because you're putting your butt on the line. If I'm lying, I'm dying. This is correct. Here's my facts. This is correct. And if this is not true, then I'm the guy that's out under penalty of the perjury. So there's your bond right there. And it comes back to an old maximum of law that I learned years ago. He who takes all the risk might also derive all the benefits, which makes sense now, is you're putting your butt on the line, literally. What do they put on the line? Mm-hmm. Nothing. They put nothing down. It's all a lie.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to scare people off saying that if you write something in quantum, then you're screwed if you messed up on it, because I think that's where we're talking about stopping and correcting, being able to talk about the volition behind why someone did something, which is, I think when it comes to the politicians of today's world and why they've done certain things, that's going to be very relevant moving forward. As this quantum grammar becomes, put more into the mainstream, because we need to know, what the heck were you thinking, bro? Like, yeah. Whoa, yeah, well, you've been poisoned. Like, you're poisoning others. Why would you do this? And to comprehend, well, they don't care. But when they're put on trial, when they are, because they will be, then we can at least get to that question. And if we can't, then we just, put them away. I mean, I don't know. It's very disturbing.
You can't fix stupid.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, these people, they know what they're doing. The higher ups do. The cops don't know.
Right. Right. Right.
They don't have no clue what they're doing at all. And some lawyers don't, but most lawyers do, because when lawyers go to law school, one of the things that they study is syntax, so that they can write things that have no legal meaning, so that you volunteer in your ignorance. You think it has meaning, it doesn't have meaning, because you were given a second grade reading level. And so you read.
I know some lawyers have commented on some of the podcasts we've done here, videos, and they did not learn to syntax. But either way, I think lawyers are given procedures. They are given ways to, skew the system a little bit that they think is fair and just, but is really, really awful.
Judge Mueller told me, Monty Edwin Mueller told me one time that he could tell the difference in the syntax from a lawyer educated at Harvard and a lawyer educated at Yale. You could see the difference. And he told me that judges' writings, when you syntax those, they're all 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. There's no 1 3 4 1 2 1 3 4 whatever. It's all 1 2 1 2 1 2. They write it completely in adverb verb, and they're trained to do that. That it's completely adverb verb. Like a judge said to me in court one day, he says, "Do you understand the Crown is seeking an adjournment?" And I looked at him and I said, "Do I what? What are you babbling about?" I said, "Do you understand?" To be a pronoun adverb verb. The Crown adverb verb is seeking adverb verb, and adjournment adverb verb. What does adjournment mean as a verb? And the judge just calmly turned his attention from me to the prosecutor, started talking to the prosecutor about something totally different. Changed the subject, because they cannot talk about facts in that fiction playground.
Facts can never meet fiction, can never meet fact. Facts can never.
And they're all just act. It's kind of like this, that you're in Muppet court. They're all holding the puppet up on their arm, going, "Hi, I'm Judge Freddy. Hi, I'm Prosecutor Jimbo." You're the only one there. They're not there.
Yeah.
The only thing is you have to make sure you're not trespassing there. And just as a reminder right now, remember, Russell said the courts are closed under the martial law. Don't go there, or you will be harvested. So
stay out. Do everything you can to stay out and do your learning the syntax, either with Monty, who you just named on the authorized teachers list, or with Gordon. The listeners can find out the authorized teachers to learn how to syntax and a little bit more about, their claim of the life. Gordon is authorized to do claims of the life, as well as chief it is Chief Systems, but for the claimofthelife.com. And then you can get your claim of the life. We do talk about this in the other podcast that Gordon and I did. Can you give us some insight as to where where this originated? Maybe how long it's been going on like this, or the Babel language? I mean, isn't this eons old? I mean, haven't we been...
I believe so. I believe that a correct grammar has always been there, because it had to be, because it's mathematical, and math has always been there. I mean, 2 apples is 2 apples. 10,000 years ago is still 2 apples. So mathematics is mathematics, and this is a mathematical syntax. So I believe that it's always been there, and I believe that that's, again, I don't know, I have any first-hand knowledge with that, but Dave said 8,500 years ago with the Tower of Babel, that's what they did, was they took away all the positional phrases, and they corrupted the language, that nobody could communicate with one another. And yeah, I think that's definitely what they're doing. They do it all the time with all these so-called COVID orders and all this garbage. Everything that they write all this garbage, because I tell people, it's like watching Game of Thrones. It's just a show. Never mind that. Like you said, it's within you, and happiness is a choice. You have to make that choice. But see, the thing that where you got to lose is the fear, and where the fear goes away is when you have knowledge. Once you have knowledge, I used to go to court, and I used to sit outside that courtroom, and I would get so scared that I was nauseous. And then I found correct syntax grammar. I met Dave, and I was complaining to Dave about the court taking my children away from me and stuff. He says, "Well, do you want to know what the key is?" And I said, "Well, hell yeah." And he said, "It's grammar." And I was just blown away by that grammar. But then he helped me with the first case I went in there, and that judge was white, and they were shaking. They were scared, and I didn't know a fraction of what I know today. The stuff that Russell has given me since then. Now the judges won't speak. They don't talk. They don't say anything. And the prosecutors run. So, I've lost my fear from them now. And I'm not, like that lady that I told you about with the social worker, the burden that was lifted off of that lady. It was a joy to behold that burden was gone, that those people didn't have that power over her anymore. And anyone can do this. Anyone. I've been in courtrooms. I've challenged prosecutors to stuff. I've had people, government offices, wherever, and they suddenly find their shoes very interesting.
Yes.
That's all they
Looking
stare
down.
and they're not saying anything anymore because they're beat. They're beat and they don't know what else to do. And you kind of feel sorry for them. But like I say, it's not about the physicality of it. It's just stand on the knowledge.
Gordon, we got to pick our battles. We got to choose. I know you love to educate the masses here. So as this is part of the journey for you, and you're an amazing teacher, I think everybody's got to figure out for themselves if they have enough knowledge to be doing that. So again, everybody choose your own battles, but the ones that you do choose, make them count. And so, if we don't educate them, again, we're back to 12b6, failure to state a claim. And you see, so that's why we do this. I had some students in Minnesota that went into a Walmart and they were kicked out for not wearing a mask. So I said, go back and take pictures of their business license and their occupancy permit and their surety, ask for their surety, and go in there and do that. This staff came running over there. What is it? What do you want? What can we help you with? Oh no, we're just, who's your surety? Oh, when they went and they took that stuff down off the wall and spirited it away, they were scared. You see, and we need to be doing that everywhere. Yes,
we need to be in their face because they don't have authority to do this. Like I told the guys at Canadian Tire, I said, Canada ceased to exist in 2017. So that means the provinces cease to exist. That means the laws, codes, rules, regulations cease to exist, which means your licensing ceased to exist. So you don't have a business license. You're saying that we're a private business and we have the authority to make our own policies. No, you don't. That's over. When Canada ended, so did that. You have nothing. You have zero.
They have an illusion of something, and they're going on that illusion by popularity, and that's what we're working to break through. And I got to be honest with you, that Alex Jones video where the anchor, and I looked at the comments and some of the people made fun of her, but that anchor, she's just a regular TV news anchor that quit because she couldn't handle all of the backlash from wanting to voice her own neutral position on a biased station where she was being forced to say things she thought were not neutral. She said the most important thing, and that is that, again, kind of how we started this podcast is, it seems like we need to define something before we even have a conversation about it.
Gotta have communication first.
Yes, she's bringing it back to the word games and the war games and the word games that we're in, and it's just fascinating. That it's finally. I feel like Alex Jones finally had turned a new stone when he realized that they're changing definitions on us. With the web dictionary.
I would say he still doesn't get it, but
No, he doesn't get it. He didn't get it, and he was even talking about it. That's the problem. It's beautiful program.
They don't know that they lack that knowledge, but it's
not yet. No. But I think they're having good conversations that are going to start to lead their brains to the wealth, to the water, to the platform, to the amazing quantum grammar platform that Chief
to the facts.
To the facts. Just simple. So, Gordon, I want to thank you so much for another great podcast. And for those of you that can hear a dove in the background where I'm outside in a beautiful landscape. And I think of that as the peace dove. The peace dove. All be healthy and better off and wealthier and wise from the inside out. And then you wanted to make a few final comments.
Well, stop listening to the 6 o'clock lies. It's nothing but lies. Don't subscribe to their channels. Don't get their papers. Don't pay them. We need to start right now. If we have an enemy on this planet it's not an alien species. It's not anybody else. It's the media. That's the enemy, and that's who we have to stop, because they're spreading lies to everybody, and the people need to stop listening to that crap. It will if people just, if they, like I tell people, like I got a business here that they were standing up to the government, and they showed up with the police and a bunch of health workers and scared them and shut their restaurant down. And I went to them, and I brought all the syntax evidence. we did a cover letter, another postmaster and I as witnesses, we did a cover letter for the porting of the crime, and we gave to give that to them to serve on all these people, and they were too frightened to do that. Would have done that. They could have brought in a band and advertised and had a party there, and they couldn't have even stepped foot in that place. You're a business owner. Just think, if you would be able to take, because we've already done this, if you would just be able to take the state's mask mandate and COVID emergency shutdown orders and all this other garbage and your business license, get control of that business license as the postmaster and syntax their stuff, and be able to open your business up again and go back to work without their stupid fake rules and regulations that don't exist, and to be able to afterwards then even take a correct syntax grammar claim, and that syntax evidence is your foundation to claim for damages.
It's more ammunition for people to come get their claim of the life and start learning about this. This is why we're doing these podcasts. So yeah, keep learning, everyone out there. I know this seems like really, really complicated, but in the end, it is quite simple. So I want to thank you, Gordon, for being again with us on this podcast. And I wish you all the best there in Canada. I know you guys are going through some hard times.
Well, same to everybody. I hope everybody is. And you remember, you're as free as you know how to be.
Yeah. Cheers.
That's what it comes down to. Okay,
free
then.
To be you and me. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rachel. We'll talk to you again soon.